All right, so in this video, I want to talk about my last couple videos where I've talked about talking about narcissists less and the reason why I feel this way. Okay, I talked a little bit about it in the video that I did, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. Um, so I have a lot of videos. I've done a lot of videos. I started doing videos like in the end of the summer, kind of like August, September, October, all through the winter. And it's a long winter here. Very, very long, cold, dreary, dismal, long winter. And winter starts here, I would say, winter weather can start anywhere between the very beginning of November to the middle of November, all the way into April. And it literally, temperatures are very cold. They're under 40. November could be a month where you might see 40s. April, you can see 40s. You might see 60s in April here. Very, very rare. Mostly it rains a lot. It's very rainy here. November also it rains. So between November and April, it's very dreary and dismal, gloomy. So I did a lot of videos. I talked about narcissists pretty thoroughly, and I talked about my experiences with them and the things that they do when you're in a relationship with them and how the relationship goes wrong, why it goes wrong, how it goes wrong, lack of communication, all the things that they do to you. And a lot of times when people are in relationships with these people, they're not even aware that they're even with a narcissist. Like, I didn't even know what a narcissist was. The definition, I had no idea what that was all throughout my relationship with the one that I was with. I knew there was something strange going on. I just didn't have a name for it. I looked and I looked and I looked and I used to look. I used to read about like all kinds of different things. And I used to say, well, that ain't it. It ain't that. It ain't that. No, he acts the same. No matter what he's doing, he's still the same. And I couldn't come up with nothing. Until about 2 years ago, I came up with, someone had mentioned to me. I was talking to a friend about my ex. I wasn't talking anything bad. I was just said, we're talking about exes. And I said, yeah, my ex hasn't talked to me in like 10 years. And they're like, and I mentioned the fact that he gives me the silent treatment and that he'll talk to me for a month and he'll give me the silent treatment again. He'll like come back into my life for a couple of weeks, then he'll give me the silent treatment again. And they said to me, he sounds like a narcissist. And it was just that one word, narcissist, that set off this entire, like the light went on. The light went on. Let me tell you, if you've ever been in the dark about something, and someone just mentions like one word about something, this was it for me. The lights went on. I was no longer in the dark, and I had the answers to what I was dealing with for so long. For so long. And I'm probably the only one in my ex's life who knows this about him. I'm sure all his other girlfriends and all his friends and family members don't even know that he is this. Well, first of all, I don't know if he treats, people say, yeah, they're all the same with everybody. I don't know. It's hard to say. With mine completely was 100% narcissist in every single way with me. And as I said, it shines through when you're in a romantic relationship with them. Like I said, like parents, friends, guy friends, two guys, they probably don't even know what he's even a narcissist, because it's not like that. Like, you don't give your friends silent treatments and things like that. And like, you don't do that, you know what I mean? So like, there's things that you do when you're in a romantic relationship that it really shines through. But for me, keeping on talking about it and keeping it current in my life kind of keeps it current. You know what I mean? Like, I've been done with this for 10 years in my life. And because I've been over it for a while, I can kind of step away from it and I'm no longer affected by him or affected by his manipulative tactics towards me. But it's still a long time. I've been going through it for such a long, long time. to where you just no longer care. You're just like, look, we've been going through this for like over a decade now. It either needs to end or you just need to go away. Like, if there's not going to be a solution here, like, how long are you going to do something? Like, how long can you do something with someone? The same pattern keeps happening over and over, the same exact pattern, right? You've been through it a lot. You've been going through it forever. It's just like there comes a point where you lose your patience and you just can't do it anymore, right? I know with mine, I've lost my patience with him a lot, especially in the last 5 years, because it's like, how many years can you go through this with them, right? It's like, if you can't, the way I feel it with mine, like when I was going through it with mine, I was like, look, either you want to be friends or you don't. Okay. None of this coming in, coming out type thing. Like, none of this, okay, you talk to me for a week and then you don't talk to me anymore. Like, enough with the baby behavior. And there's only so much that you can go through it, right? It's like you've been through it over and over and over. And that's why, like, I lost my patience with mine. I don't have the patience anymore. And a lot of that is because I am older now. And I know he's a narcissist. And when I was younger, I put up with a lot of bullshit from people because I was unaware of these personality disorders were even out there. Now that I know all about it, I'm less I'm less I have a I don't have a high tolerance for it anymore, you know what I mean? I don't have a tolerance for it. But you just kind of say, "Okay, I'm done." Like, I don't care about it anymore. And you can care about someone a lot, but when the same thing keeps happening, this pattern keeps going on and on, what can you do? What can you do, right? So, talking about it and helping other people, even if it's just a little story that I tell about mine and what I went through with mine, gives another person the idea that maybe they need to look further into what they're dealing with. Maybe they need to look further into, maybe they're a narcissist that they're dating. Remember, narcissism, the disorder, the personality disorder, is running rampant today in society with men and women, not just men. This is a gender-free thing. This is, men and women have this, all right? I know for myself, I'll be very honest, I sometimes come across like a narcissist. I do. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I do. I do. Yeah, I do. Because I have high standards. But I don't lack empathy. That's how I know I'm not a narcissist. I don't lack empathy. I'm very sympathetic to people. I don't lack empathy. I'm very caring. I'm very kind. I'm very understanding. I'm very forgiving to a certain degree. But I do have narcissistic traits. I'm not going to lie about that. I do. I definitely do. Everybody does. Everybody does. And it's normal in this century to have those traits. Because today, with society, with the internet, with our Facebook and all our social media sites, everything is based on ourselves, right? We're so looking at ourselves inward. We're always like so inward in who we are and in our inward person, right? That it's impossible kind of not to have narcissistic traits, right? Everything has to do with self today. You have a selfie camera, a selfie profile. Everything has to do with self. So yes, people are a little bit more inward. Um, People are looking more inward at themselves. Absolutely. Back in the 20s and 30s and 50s and 60s, we didn't have all this shit. There were still narcissists, of course, but it wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as widespread as it is today. But of course, social media definitely created a lot of narcissists. And not just that, but the way people are being raised today. Kids are being raised by parents who are creating narcissists without even knowledge of them doing it. The ones where they're like, "You're the second winner." You're the second winner. You didn't lose, Bobby. You're the second winner. Not giving kids discipline, and kids not being told when they're wrong, or when they lost. You have to be tough. And a lot of these kids today are not growing up tough. They're not. They're too afraid to hurt everybody's feelings. And that's not the way it was back in the day, especially in our our great grandparents and grandparents era, and those are the men. Like I said, like you can tell the difference between men and the younger generation. I'm not going to say certain generations, but the younger generation you could see. So there's reasons why there's more narcissists today than there used to be, of course. But I just you know, I, there's only so much you can deal. Like I said, there's only so much, and even though you might be dating a narcissist, you might have a narcissist in your life, um, but there's only so much that you're going to take. There's only, like with mine, even with mine, when I broke up with my narcissist, I reached my peak and I couldn't go on any longer with mine. I had to break up with him. I couldn't even see him anymore. It got to the point where I was done. And I broke up with him when I was like 42 or 43 years old. I think I was 42 when we broke up. And I didn't want to start over. The last thing in my mind was to get into another relationship. At 42, I didn't want to do that. I had spent 7 years with him trying to have a life with this guy, putting my whole heart into it. Gave up a lot of stuff, gave up a lot of things that I used to like to do because of him. Didn't even see my friends anymore. I mean, I had friends that were like, where you been? Like, what happened? Did you move to a different state? Now, take it, I do have a lot of guy friends. And when I was with my narcissist, I didn't even see my guy friends because I didn't feel that it was right for me to do that. And I don't think my narcissist would have appreciated me to go off and have, a drink with my friends or anything like that. So I never really did that anymore. I kind of stopped seeing friends. I would see a couple of my coworkers that I had stayed in touch with for years once in a while, but it was like maybe like once or twice a year, like not that much. Not just that, a lot of my girlfriends were married too. A lot of them are married with children. And when you're not married with children and all your friends are, you don't have a lot in common with them. They tend to hang out with other parents with kids, you know what I mean? So it's like I didn't have a lot in common with my friends. They all were married with kids. So even my family, they're all married with kids. So I kind of was the odd man out a lot. So I just, I did a lot just with my narcissist and everything kind of revolved around him. So I kind of had to, when I broke up with him, I kind of had to find out who I was again by being alone and not having him in my life because like everything revolved around him. And I had to kind of remember who I was and kind of remember the girl that I used to be because I kind of lost that girl when I was with my narcissist. And I had friends, like I had guy friends who were just platonic guy friends. Like I had friends who lived down in South Jersey. I had guys that, guy friends that lived, in different places that we were just friends that I knew, from a long, long time ago that I just stopped seeing. I just didn't even talk to them. And when you do that, it's hard because, it's like I didn't really want to lose my friends. And then there were some friends that I did keep in touch with. I have a few guy friends that lived out in Long Island. I had like one really good friend who lived out in Long Island that was like my best friend. And because we lived so far away from each other, we never really, we did meet. We did hang out. We hung out like maybe 2 or 3 times. He came to my place and we hung out. He always liked me, but we lived so far away. Like I'm up in Jersey and he was out on Long Island and it just wasn't going to work. And we were just very good friends. We stayed very good friends for many years, many years. And he was like my best friend. And he was my confidant, really. He was the one who got me through a lot of that stuff with my narcissist as far as like the breakups. But at one point he said to me, if you go back there, I can't talk to you anymore. And that was like really weird for him to say that to me because he wasn't the type of guy to ever say anything negative about our friendship. We had been friends since like 1995, literally 1996. And when he said to me, if you go back there, I can't talk to you anymore. Because he saw how bad he was to me. Like he saw how bad he treated me. And he gave me an ultimatum. He said, if you go back there, I can't talk to you anymore. He was like, I can't. And I really had to think about it. I said, okay, well, look, I better start taking this seriously. Because I used to move in and out of me and my ex-narcissist would break up like literally like every couple months. And it wasn't just a breakup. It would be like literally moving out. I would bring all my stuff to his house. I did not have to move all my stuff out. And it wasn't even all my stuff. That was like maybe a third of my stuff. That wasn't even all my stuff. Most of my stuff was still at my parents' house, right? And then I would like go back and forth to my ex's house with bags of just my clothes and my makeup and my beauty stuff. And yeah, it was a very volatile relationship. It was up and down, hot and cold, crazy type relationship, you know. But back then, I was in my mid 30s. I was still young, going through that kind of relationship. I was young, so it didn't really faze me. I wanted it to work out so much with my narcissist that I went through all that stuff with him. And I stayed with him for many years, despite my own happiness really not being super happy, you know, not getting my needs met with a lot of things. And when I talk about that relationship on here, I don't want to, sometimes I don't want to help people. And like I said, if people who are being helped, that's great. If people hear me talk about this and they can get an idea and know what they need to do, that's great. But I'm the one that's doing the talking. I'm the one that's going back in time and I'm kind of remembering all this stuff. And as I said before, I do want to move on from this. I feel like I've talked a lot about this stuff. And, you know, as I said, there's only so much you can talk about it. But, you know, that's how I feel about it. That's really, truly my feelings about the topic. I enjoy talking about narcissists, but, you know, people that talk about it, you know, I talk about it generally, and I can talk about it in a general way too. I don't even have to bring my ex up when I talk about this. I talk about it because he's what I'm referring to. My relationship with him is what taught me really what a narcissist was. Referring to that relationship is how I talk about it. But I can talk about it without talking about him. And I think if I do talk about narcissism in the future, I might say, hey, this is what all narcissists do. And I could refer to him about it, but I like to talk about it more in a general way. You know what I mean? Rather than bringing him into the mix. Because I want to move on. You know, I do. He moved on. And it's time for me to move on as well. I mean, it's been way past time for me to move on. And I've moved on from it. But talking about it in a way keeps him still current in my life. And I think that other people that do, all the gurus on here who talk about narcissists are referring to an ex of theirs. They all do. They all do. Nothing wrong with it. But, you know, I feel like I have enough videos and I've talked a lot about stuff. And I have a pretty thorough um, library of different video topics to pick from regarding your relationship with one. And a lot of the outcomes and the conclusions of what will be if you have one in your life and if you keep one in your life. But just know that you're not going to educate them. Like I've tried to educate mine many times, trying to talk sense, and it still doesn't get through. It doesn't get through. Like there is no getting through to narcissists. And I've had to accept that too. That no matter what you say to them, the wires are crossed. They're not getting the signal. They're not getting it. So don't waste your time trying to beat it into their head to talk to them about something because they're not going to get it. It's going to be a waste of time. Unfortunately. So I am addicted to Snapple apples. I bought a 6-pack of these things. They were on sale. I bought 2 6-packs. I forget what it was. It was something like 3 for $12 or something like that. I was like, oh, this is a good deal. You get 6, you get like 18. Because these are like $2 or $3, right? When you buy them separate, just like, if you go into like a store just to buy one, I was like, oh, this is a good deal. But I'm addicted to these Snapple apples. I can't stop drinking these things. And when they're really cold, they're super refreshing. This is my favorite Snapple flavor is the Snapple apple. But you know, don't try to, or don't think that you're going to change them, and don't think that you're going to talk sense to them. There is no talking sense to them. There is no talking to them and seeing a change in behavior. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. There does come a time, if you're like the ex of a narcissist or whatever, a girlfriend of one, where you do need to let go and say goodbye. There comes a time when you have to do that because they're not getting it and they're never going to see your side of the story. They're never going to get the picture. You do need to let go of these people. It's almost like what I said with the animals that you want to love. Like a wolf, literally. You want to pet it, you want to pick it up, you want to cuddle with it, you want to love it, right? You're like, I love this wolf, he's beautiful, right? But then you're like, this wolf will kill me. It's going to rip me apart. It's going to, literally kill me. And that's the same thing. You have to think of a narcissist like a wild animal. You have to keep them at arm's length at all times, and you can't get close to them because they will hurt you. And I believe that's their intent, is to hurt you. They want to hurt you. They want to deflate you. They are masters of deception. I've said this before. And they want you to believe things that aren't true. They're going to deflate you. They're going to make you feel like very, very deflated because they don't want to see you on top. And they don't want to make you feel important. They don't want to make you feel good ever. So you got to understand that too. But, it's funny because like someone said, like, I forget, like, I'm not going to say the whole story, but like someone said to me, did you ever think about yourself as being a narcissist? I'm like, no, why? And they're like, well, you also like have traits. And I said, yeah, of course. Like, people have traits of narcissism, and it's completely normal and healthy to have narcissistic traits. Everybody does. Everybody should think highly of themselves. Everybody should have high standards. Everybody should want the best for themselves. Everybody should. I know for myself, I do have a pretty high confident level. I'm a very confident person. I am confident. But I'm not conceited. I'm not full of myself. I don't think I'm better than other people. There's a difference between being confident and thinking that you're better than other people or that you're a snob. That's different. That's different. You can be a confident person and still be nice and still be kind and have a good nature and want to help people and be caring and goodwill to everybody. That's different than being conceited and being a snob, and that's a whole other thing. Because I'm confident doesn't mean that I'm a narcissist. And people that are confident, that does not have anything to do with being a narcissist. I just want to say that because I don't want to come across like that. And I do come across like the fact that I know that I'm uh, good at certain things, or I'm good at certain sports, or because I'm good at certain things, like that makes me a narcissist because I know, no, I'm just confident. That's all. You know what you know, right? But that doesn't make someone a narcissist because they're good at something or because they're whatever. But anyway, that's it for this one. And I will be back probably with some movie reviews. Tubi has added some really good movies that I'm going to do a review on.